DZ, let me ask you a question.
I love you, brother. Checks in the mail.
Speaking of selling, can you sell me on the fact that it's just as easy as coming back home, and that's all we need to get the old Celtics back for the first 2 games of this series?
Well, believe it or not, Casey, it really is about that. After talking to Coach Stevens this morning, it's about getting his guys back to what they do best, which is share the basketball, get Al Horford more involved in the half-court offense, being a facilitator, and defensively calming down Marcus Morris, understanding that we want him to be tough. Yes, we understand you're not afraid of LeBron, but you have to be a little smarter because they need him on the floor, because offensively, when he's making shots and playing solid defense, things seem to flow a little bit better for the Celtic team.
Smitty, Boston has had a really profound.
Smitty?
I just called him Smitty. I did.
Smitty?
3D.
Smitty? I thought Smitty was sitting next to you.
Smitty's in the film room, DZ, with his hand on his head being like, did I lose this already?
So,
Wait, I thought Smitty looked like Grant Hill. I thought he looked like Grant Hill.
So Boston's had a really profound difference in the way they've performed home and road, and in large part I think it's because they're all young and because they don't have one guy that can be the takeover offensive player. When you played with Shaq, how different was your level of comfort when you were playing with him versus when he was off the court? And how important is that for Boston to not have that go-to guy?
Griff, that's a great question because a lot of times people compare to our Orlando team because we were so young. Nick Anderson, his 6th year, I was only about 5th year, on down with Shaq and Penny being their 3rd and 4th years. When you have that superstar on the floor and things break down, you can call one play, put that ball in that person's hands, and they get double teamed, and that's when the role players get easy shots. Very similar to what LeBron James has done in games 3 and 4. He's done his role by being a superstar. Now Coach Stevens has to figure out when do you double team, and then when you do, LeBron's still the best in the game as finding players that knock down 3-point shots. So with that being said, Brad Stevens wants to get his guys back to what you were talking about, ball movement, sharing the basketball so they can get good shots again.
Dennis, I want to go back to that youth because the Celtics don't have one guy. The great thing about them, even with all their injuries, is everyone has contributed. But do they need a guy? Does either Tatum or Jaylen Brown or Terry Rozier, in your opinion, does one of them need to have that big game, which we've seen all 3 do during the course of the last couple of weeks, but they haven't done over the last couple of games?
I lean towards Scary Terry. You're at home. You're that guy that most people didn't know who you were coming into the playoffs. Now you've made a name for yourself. So you have to get off to a fast start, get the crowd involved, and now keep the tempo under control to your liking. And now you come back and get everyone in their sweet spots, get them playing together, get them playing confident basketball. The defense kicks in, and I think everyone follows suit.
All right, last one for me. You mentioned Al Horford. His role, bigger than just what he does on the floor. How much has he been kind of that calming presence? Because you don't want to put too much on one guy, Dennis, but he's basically dad for a lot of these players during the course of this run. Last couple of days, I'm sure these kids were a little bit down on themselves. How big has Al become?
Al is big to come, Casey, and he's been down on himself a little bit because he's been a little perplexed how he was out of positions in Games 3, and then in Game 4 he got a little bit better, got more shots. But at the end of the day, Coach Stevens wants him to be more facilitator on half-court end. You know, the defensive end, like we saw in Games 1 and 2, block a few more shots.
All right, hits from the road only, baby. Enjoy.
There you go, baby. You know what time it is.
Great job, Brent.
Hey. Come on, Rex Chapman, get it right.
Oh, my God. That's too funny. All right, with that in mind, we go to the film room. Welcome in Grant Hill. Kind of have to join us, Smitty.
Hey, Casey, I appreciate it. And obviously, you guys still got me laughing. But we're going to start to look at games 1 and 2, not just LeBron James, but how's it opening up? And first of all, the defense of the Boston Celtics in game 1 and 2. And let's roll this. Let's look right now. There's LeBron James. He's been covered by Al Horford. A little bit of a brush screen, not much, but the switch is Marcus Morris. Size, being able to just stay in front of him. Are you going to stop LeBron James, but you're making it a little bit tougher with bigger defenders? Marcus Morris. Now you got Al Horford helping. Another screen by Tristan Thompson. Al Horford again. He settles because I know LeBron James looking at, there's a lot of work throughout a game to go up against bigger defenders. Has a smaller guy, Marcus Smart, as you can see right now. Then Jason Tatum comes out. And yes, 7 seconds. I think it settled a little bit, obviously, in that second game of shooting jump shots. Give T. Lue a lot of credit because what they're doing right now is it's not so much to make the game easier for LeBron James, but take the Boston Celtics out of their set defense with bigs guarding him that's 6'9", 6'10", 6'7", 6'8". As we roll right now, the game's basically 3 and 4 in Cleveland. We rolling. They are hunting Terry Rozier. And is Terry Rozier a good defender? Yes, he is. But you can't teach height. He can't grow anymore. Now, as you can see right now, there's Terry Rozier. Whether you're handling the basketball, LeBron, you set the screen. And I know Boston's wanting to switch because they didn't want to give up three-point shots. But it's causing so much confusion. Even on misses, then you don't have bodies on bodies. Hunting Terry Rozier right now. Now you're talking about 6'8", 260, banging. If you're not going to help, oh, that's a bucket. You got a mouse in the house. Next right here from Marcus Smart. Good job. Put a little pressure on LeBron James. We're going to run the clock down. George Hill come up. A little bit of confusion. I thought Marcus Smart should have got over it and stopped tangling up. But as you can see, Terry Rozier didn't want to switch. Knocks down this bucket. But I think also it's causing so much confusion. It's giving the Cleveland Cavaliers a offensive flow while they're hunting Terry Rozier, a mismatch against LeBron James.
All right, Smitty, appreciate it, and I promise you, you're correct. If you could teach height, I would have done a lot more studying in college. So I appreciate it. We got more.
It's the best of one series. Just come out and play your game and put yourself in a position to win.
All right, best of one series or not, regardless, we're pretty excited about what happens tonight, and we're just sitting here, 90 minutes away. Welcome to Game Time, the playoff edition here in our studios in Atlanta. Casey Stern, Smitty, Griff. Look, guys, after last night, expectations in the bar, Smitty, right now, real high.
You know, I think if you just love this game, Griff and Casey, you've got to love this Game 5. There's so much, and obviously from both sides. To me, I'm looking for the adjustments from the coaches and how does some of these young guys perform on a big stage. And obviously, can LeBron still have his dominance in big games at the Garden? So I'm looking. Well, I'm dating myself saying at the Garden.
Well,
yeah, and which Garden?
No, not the Garden. Not the Garden.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Thank you. At least we know that one's in New York. Yeah.
Well, I think I agree with you. I mean, I think we should be expecting to see something special from LeBron, and it's almost funny. We take him for granted at this point. He's had, 6 40-point games in the playoffs, and you just sort of – I don't know that there's anybody else right now playing sports on any level where you can just say, yeah, I expect greatness tonight again.
Right.
And it's remarkable. And I think with the exception of the post-concussion period of time of Game 2, because there's no way he was in his right mind for that second half of that game, with the exception of that period of time, I think he's been pretty constant in his
So he's
level
supposed to be
of
in the
domination.
protocol, huh? You're saying?
Well, I don't know if he cleared the protocol or not,
Right.
but I can tell you I've never seen that look in his face before.
They may have selectively forgotten the protocol. That's like the protocol
they had
is
a
we need
concussion.
LeBron, right? Exactly.
But with the exception of that 71-46 blitz from Boston, it really feels like the last 3 games Cleveland started to figure it out a little bit. LeBron, Ty Lue, they're hunting mismatches to some degree. I think Brad's going to adjust. He's masterful in that way as well. So what I'm excited about seeing now is the adjustments that have been made to this point. You know, in the Houston-Golden State series, there's so little margin for error because Golden State's just so good offensively. Cleveland is not going to be a Houston-level defensive team, so they've got to be able to score and outscore Boston.
You know, we're going to get into the other series in a second, but I want to use Houston because I think what they learned in this series, guys, is if they're going to have a chance to win, bell to bell, you got to be at a 10. There is no revving up. To me, it seems like Boston has tried to kind of feel themselves out in the last couple of games. It's got them in trouble. If you really go second quarter on after they were down double digits, it was kind of even the rest of the way. They got it down all the way to 7-8 points at some point early in the fourth quarter, but they got so far behind the 8 ball. Are we going to see the Boston we saw in the first 2 games now, Smitty, where from jump, they look like a team ready to win?
You know, obviously, if you're the Boston Celtics and any team, you want somebody to stand out and have one of those games. But I think just from a standpoint of adjustments, I thought T. Lue going bigger with Tristan Thompson, just like Griff said, hunting a mismatch with Terry Rozier. He's not a bad defender. He's just so small playing against LeBron James. It tears up your defensive philosophy. So for me I'm interested right now, what's the adjustment from Brad Stevens, because C. Lou is going to stick with this because it's limit the points in the paint for the Boston Celtics. The first 2 games, they was averaging 55 points. The last 2 games in Cleveland, I know they weren't at home and they're a young team, but only 36 points in the paint. They need those driving angles, and I think Tristan Thompson has done a good job of both defensively guarding his guy and also being able to guard guys attacking the rim.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up, too. It's a good segue, Griff, because I think everybody talks about the young kids, rightfully so. With Boston, I would argue that Al Horford was their most important player over the first couple of weeks of this playoffs, leading them up to this 2-0 lead.
No
It's as good as I've ever seen him play, even though he's been an all-star. How important does he become now? You get on a plane where all of a sudden those kids got blitzed, they lost 2 in a row. Does he again have to kind of stand in the forefront now for Boston?
Well, it's interesting. Al has struggled with 2 bigs on the floor against Cleveland going back to his time in Atlanta. Love and Tristan, Mozgov and Tristan. Anytime they've got 2 bigs on the court when Al's there, they've really been attacking Al. And I think one of the big reasons for that is Al is an incredible defender in space. He's going to be their best help defender. He can be very switchy. He's going to be one of these guys who guards 2 up on the perimeter. Well, if they dive Tristan through, Al has to go with Tristan. Now your best wing defender and smartest wing defender is not out there anymore.
Right.
And so they've effectively taken his best weapon away from him defensively. And then on the offensive end, because they're keeping big bodies there, he's not able to bully a smaller player when a team likes to play small ball. So I think from a matchup perspective and style making a fight, the 2 bigs is critical. And the trust level that LeBron has in Tristan and Kevin is epically important.
You know, on the other side, we're going to get into a lot about last night's game, including that last play, which we'll dissect later. So we'll leave that for now. I want to talk about Houston because I think a lot of times what happens is we always embrace the negative. It is the era of social media, right? So what does everybody talk about? Wow, Golden State didn't do this, that. Let's start with what Houston did. We were talking about this in the meeting earlier. Have you ever seen a Mike D'Antoni team play with more defensive effort than you saw in the fourth quarter?
No, I have not, and I think that's a testament to the P.J. Tuckers, the Chris Pauls. Guys are defensive-minded and also tough. You got to give Chris Paul, he's a fantastic point guard, one of my favorites, but what he has done in crunch time for the Houston Rockets, to me, has been phenomenal, Griff. I mean, he willed that win last night, making the right plays. And, yes, all time on highlights, we're going to show points. But I thought just the little things, just communication, him staying engaged, was the reason why the Houston Rockets won that game. And for me, I give them a lot of credit. They're playing small ball at the end of the game, and they're matching the Hampton 5 with whatever you want to call the Sugarland 5, and they are doing a good job. And obviously Andre Iguodala was missing, but Clint Capella is not on the floor a lot down in crunch time.
Elephant in the room, whether or not it was fair, Griff, I think a lot of people said Houston's heart is going to be tested in this series. That test they got yesterday, Cleveland has failed in that in finals in the past, where they get on you, they go on that run. Steph started to go off with 3 threes. They go up double digits, and teams go away. How impressed were you that they didn't in that spot last night?
Incredibly so. And to your point about a Mike D'Antoni coach team, while you've never seen a Mike D'Antoni coach team have this level of doggedness, he's never had this many dogs in the locker room either. He's got the talent level defensively to be about that. You know, their biggest key has been that they're able to score enough to keep the defenders on the court. P.J. Tucker was a monster yesterday. Absolutely tremendous for them defensively, keeping balls alive on the offensive end. All of his rebounding effort was really significant. And when they're going to get into you and they're going to deliver a punch, it's most often going to be P.J. that's sort of the point of the sword. And so I think what they've done a remarkable job of is scoring enough despite the lack of offensive talent on the court. Against Golden State, that's really difficult, and it's complicated. And I think Golden State probably had a little bit of complacency. I think they understand now that's a legit 65-win team and a #1 seed.
All right, let me ask you a question that before, not going to be easy before this series, and probably not now. Everybody thought, okay, maybe another rematch is coming. Let's take the 2 teams that are home, 2-2, Boston, and you got Houston. Which one, with 3 games left in each series, do you have more confidence can win 2 of those 3 and take this home?
You know, there's just no knock on the Boston Celtics, but I'm more confident in the Houston Rockets.
Which is saying something because they're playing Golden State.
Yes. The Boston Celtics are up against a LeBron James team. You can't say anything, taking away anything with the Warriors. They have fantastic players, but I just think right now these young guys, they played extremely well. I just think right now Cleveland, they might not win this series. I have them winning this series, but I think Boston is a team. I would say Houston has a better chance.
I agree with Houston having the better chance, and in large part, this is in addition to the pit bulls that Mike has in the locker room, has a lot to do with what Golden State may not. If Iguodala is not healthy or not able to be 100%, I think to a huge degree, and Steve Kerr's talked about this, he's really the brains of the outfit. When they start throwing the ball all over the place, he's really the one that brings them back to center and makes the right play at the right time. He's the glue guy for them. And I think it's critical on the defensive end to not have his versatility. And it might even be more important on the offensive end to just calm things down when things get a little bit out of control, as they did at times last night.
Last night, for good reason, the NBA kind of took over the interwebs, if you will, because of what went on. We could have that again in Game 5. We'll talk more about LeBron and all the 40-plus point efforts, the defense, the passing. I mean, what's been missing? Really nothing from the guy who may be the best ever, and as good as you're going to find in the secret finds file, Donovan Mitchell. But who could be this year's Donovan? We'll answer it.